Hi, I'm Vivian Dempsey, and I teach the Writing Edge Bar Review course. And it occurred to me that it's been almost 30 years since I've been doing this, and my familiarity with the bar exam is over that long period of time. So the first thing that I want to do is to debunk some of the widely held myths about the bar exam that are obstacles to your getting better on the bar. Okay, so just 5 of them. So the first one is that the February bar, the winter bar exam, is not harder than the summer bar exam. The reason for the lower pass rate on the winter bar exam is because the people taking the winter bar exam, 75% of them are repeat takers. And repeat takers are not coming through this narrow flow of just having passed 3 or 4 years of law school, just having taken a bar review course. They come from many, many different directions, and life's gotten in the way for many of them. And so there's a wider disparity in their level of preparation for the winter bar exam. And that's what's causing the lower pass rate in the winter. That's because the thing that controls the pass rate on the California bar exam is the multiple choice exam. Okay, so the statistician or the psychometrician who invented scaling for the California bar used this as his thesis, that the multiple choice exam is the most constant and therefore the most reliable score on the 3 parts of the bar exam, because it's 200 MBE questions, and you can get 1 right or you can get 200 right, and so it makes a fairly nice normal bell curve. So in order to control for the variations in the individual process of grading the essays and the performance tests, the essays and the performance test, called your written score, is related to the MBE score. Okay, and it's given literally, it's assigned the same score that the MBE would have in its ranking. Okay, so let me look at this chart here, and hopefully this will be clear to you. So of the number of people taking the MBE in California, there's somebody in the state who got the highest score, the highest number of MBEs right in California. There's also somebody, probably somebody else, who got the highest written score. That is the combined essay and PT score. So the MBE scaled score, possible 2,000 points, let's say it's a 1990, is the highest score. That highest MBE score is just labeled onto the written score. It's just given the same score. So 1990 MBE is the top score in the state, so the top written score in the state will get a 1990 scaled score. Okay, and then the next lowest MBE score will be assigned the next lowest written score will be assigned the next lowest MBE score, and so on and so forth, all the way down until there are no more passing MBE scores in the state of California. And that number of people who pass the MBE is the absolute limit as to the number of people who can pass that given bar exam. Now I understand that the person who gets this MBE score is not going to be the same person who gets that written score. It doesn't matter. Same thing for an attorney bar applicant. Just because you didn't take the MBEs at all doesn't mean that they can't assign an MBE score to you. Okay, so the reason the winter bar pass rate is lower is literally there are fewer people passing the MBE because their preparation is more diverse than it is in the summer when they're mostly first-time takers. And that number of people passing the MBEs is the absolute limit on the number of people who can be labeled a passing score on their written exam. I hope that's clear. The psychometrician for the state bar actually personally described that to me. And if you need another review of it, I also have this on my website. In my book, the Writing Edge Bar Review course, I have a whole chapter devoted to the grading process, what goes through the graders' minds, what actually happens in those grading sessions, which might be of interest to you as well. The second myth is that the State Bar's published answers are not model answers. They're not even the best answers that were received for that given question. Since they're not model, they are not useful to you to study from. People continually refer to them as the bar's model answers. They're not. I used to do this session live at Bolt Hall and also down at LMU in LA. And I had a fellow who used to come to every single one of my sessions. He loved my answers, and he never took the bar, he just loved to come to my answers. I found out much later that he was actually one of the law professors at Bolt Hall. And he asked me in one of these sessions, just raised his hand and asked me, why is it that in other states the repeat taker pass rate is almost as high as the first time taker pass rate? And yet here in California, it's about 30 points different every single bar exam. Big gap, and it never gets any better. Why is that? And it was a great question, and because I was called upon to answer it right off the cuff, this is what I said, and this is what I still believe. It's the bar's published answers. Because they're not perfect, they're not even right in all of their aspects. How do you know which parts of them are right and which parts of them aren't right? So to try to study and improve yourself and to guess, oh, this part of it was right and this part of it wasn't right, it's like that game that kids play where you move toward an object and the person who knows the answer says you're getting warmer or you're getting cooler. Well, that's what it's like. It's a guessing game because you don't actually have good model answers. My answers are my best effort to give you a perfect answer. And there's 135 of them in the course. I wrote all of them. Okay, and the analysis that I give you on the videos, the 21 videos that accompany the course, and here, this is a good example of what you'll get with the course, is to teach you my thinking method. So it isn't just there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer, it's how did I come up with the answer that I got? What process did I use so that you can model that and use that on your bar exam? The bar's published answers are, in a sense, misdirection. Okay, so a magician has you looking over here when what he's fooling with is actually over here. Okay, and the bar's published answers, by not being right, by not being entirely reliable, is misdirection, and it makes it more and more difficult, especially for multiple repeat takers, to figure out, which end is up. The third myth that I want to debunk is something that you might have asked yourself, and that is, why is my score in a given essay subject so different from one exam to another exam? Did I know that subject or did I not know that subject? How can it be that different? What you have to understand is that you are not being weighed on a scale. It isn't about you. It's about how you compare to everybody else that's taking the exam at the same time you are. If you're doing better than the other people on the exam, even if your answer is not very good, let's say it was a very difficult question, okay, then you're going to get a higher score. If you're doing worse than most of the other people on the bar exam, then you're going to get a lower score. Okay, so it's kind of like if you were in a lineup at a police station and you're in a lineup with 5 other people, and in this particular lineup of people, you're the shortest person there. Okay, so in that group, you're the shortest. Something went wrong with the lineup, so they had you come back. They had a different group of 5 people, and you're in that lineup, and in that lineup, you're the tallest person in the group. Okay, it's not you that's changed, it's the people that you're being compared to. And that's a really important thing, because if you are trying to scientifically track, well, did I know this subject? Did I not know this subject? Have I improved? Have I gotten worse? It's going to drive you crazy, because it's not you that's changed. It's the snapshot of the people you took the bar exam with on that given administration. The fourth myth I want to debunk is why knowing the law for the MBE isn't the same thing as knowing the law for the essays. I can't tell you, I wish I had $1 for every single person that's called me and said, I know the law, that's not my problem. Well, what they mean is they've done pretty well on the MBE. And so they figure, I must know the law, I know the law for the MBE. That knowing the law for the MBE is having a general understanding of legal concepts and being able to reason on your feet with 4 answer choices, which are explained essentially as to what the reason is, and picking the right one. That's a completely different process than what you need for the essays, which is to not only be able to recognize the concept, that's the foot in the door, but also to be able to come up with the test for that concept, and maybe even the test for the exception or limitation to that issue, and to be able to reason about it in good time, efficiently, using the facts in the essay exam. That's a completely different skill and a different way of knowing the law. And so if people, which most people do, study from a full-service bar course, they're really studying for the MBE. And knowing the law for the MBE isn't at all the same thing as knowing the law for the essays. Okay? So you kind of have to split the subject apart and study it one way for the MBE and another way for the essays, which is narrower, deeper, and in much more detail. The last of the 5 myths that I want to debunk is about the performance test. The performance test is not a crapshoot. Okay, people go in there and they think it's the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, they think it's Jeopardy. The $1 million Jeopardy game was just last night. The performance test, just like the MBE and the essays, is part of a standardized exam. So it would be totally unfair for a part of the bar exam that decides whether or not you can practice law in California to be random, to have nothing predictable about it. So it must be standardized. And it's finding that pattern, finding the similarities in all the performance tests that have been on the bar, so that you can more quickly spot the issues and spot the law, the rules of law that apply to those issues, so that you can spend more time reasoning, okay, that is going to really enhance your score on the performance test. And given the fact that in my 30 years experience, very few people have had adequate preparation on the performance test, and so the competition isn't hard to beat on the performance test. And again, once again, remember, just like with the essays, the answers that the bar publishes aren't perfect answers. They're not the best that the bar got. They're 2 representative answers. So looking at those and saying, wow, that's what they did, is not going to give you a great deal of guidance on how to prepare for the bar exam performance tests in the future. Okay, that's it for the myths. And I will go on from here to talk about some of the essays and performance tests on the winter 2014 bar exam. All of these will be on my website and on YouTube under The Writing Edge.